I think I've got like a bit of a conspiracy theory, and I don't know if it's that much of a conspiracy
Moon
theory or if
landing
it's
was
just
fake.
common sense.
All right, hit me with
I'm
conspiracy.
like, so my theory is that a lot of these companies such as Microsoft have initially announced, $80 price tag, USD obviously, for their games. And everyone was like, that's so expensive. And then they're like, no. But see, we're a good company because we care about what you guys say. So we're going to backtrack it to 70. But I feel like 70 was like the actual price tag all along. And they were just like trying to change the consumer sentiment from like increasing straight from $60 to $70 is like, $10 jump. That sucks. But if it goes 20, but then they're backtracking, that's pretty cool of them.
That's actually a really good conspiracy theory. I can actually see that.
Thank you.
I actually can see that because I was going to disagree with you, but I'm like, no, that actually makes sense. That actually, it's like giving the worst news first, but then giving good news after.
Yeah, they're fucking shoving it down our throats, and then they're just like, but we do treat you good. We do treat you
Game
good.
Pass.
But what's interesting though is, and I guess I'll just jump straight into this as well. I don't know if this is like a really easy question to answer, but David, so if I looked into this just for inflation rates, and it is mainly based on the Reserve Bank calculator of Australia. So I don't know if this really
The interest rates have gone up.
I don't know if this exactly equates to the rest of the world, but let's just use this as an example. So if a brand new game in the year 2000 roughly cost about $50 by today's standards and with inflation, that would roughly equate to about $95 to $100 in today's money.
Damn.
So that raises a question in my mind. Is it fair that companies are raising their prices to $70 or $80 at the moment? Please answer. You're on the spot.
That's a really good question, and
it's tough, isn't it? Because
it's tough to answer.
Because if you just look at that, you would think, I guess that makes sense. But I would also argue that yes, games were simpler back then than they are now, and they cost significantly less than what they do now. Everything, they cost less to make than it does now.
Now it does, yeah.
But also at the same time, I feel like we have all of these ads thrown at us in-game, all of these extra microtransactions and purchases
Loot
that
boxes.
are crammed down our throats, exactly, battle passes, all that shit. And also, I think a lot of the games that come out these days, for the most part, aren't complete because they have all these, patches to fix them in the first place.
Buy our season pass.
But you know what, like day one patches and stuff like that. Like, it's just, it almost feels like we're either getting games in a bit of a buggy or broken state a lot more now due to really strict deadlines compared to what it was back in, the early to mid 2000s when the Xbox 360, PS3 generations came out. So I don't know. It's tough because on one hand, if you want to be simple, look at it in its simplicity and the inflation rates and all that bullshit, you would think that okay, $70, $80, that's actually less than, I guess, what it would equate to with inflation. But at the same time, I feel like we're actually getting less quality. So on the other hand, I'd also say no, especially because there's a lot of post-purchase, I guess, sales and tactics being crammed down our throats.
Yeah, and
I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, and it's I agree with a lot what you're saying because back then, different times, the hardware wasn't as sophisticated as what it is now. The games were as big or demanding as they are now. Is it fair that obviously we have these massive games that are coming out now that still cost the same than they were 20 years ago? The technology has changed dramatically. Developers are more under the pump than ever. You got crunch, you got all these talented teams who are working on this game. Shouldn't obviously that hard work that pay off to these game sales, because we have all these games that are coming out and obviously all these talented teams that are still working on these games, and we're still seeing massive layoffs when these games do get released. As most recently, Microsoft has cut 9,100 jobs in 2025.
In just 2025 alone, how crazy?
That's
is
crazy,
that?
and that's those are people's lives. Those are talented people who work in this industry. So as a consumer, shouldn't we?
And that's just one company, by the way.
Yeah, that's
not even to take into account everyone else.
Exactly. That's just the most biggest example. So would it be fair for publishers just to raise their prices a little bit more, just so they can pay their staff? I
also think that there's. Sorry, you keep going.
No, you keep going. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, I feel like there is also like a bit of a public discontent or distrust with a lot of these mega companies and corporations at the moment too. It's like, if I, as a consumer, knew that the price increase equated to that money going to the developers, then I would be happy to pay extra
100%
for a game.
100%.
But I know for a fact that it's just going to the shareholders.
That is also very true. That money is probably going into the pockets of the shareholders.
Yeah.
As well,
But, yeah.
Should the price, obviously, the next question is, obviously, I believe we were making reference to, when I was reading the news, rudely, that the stat, Gen Zs between 18 and 24 years are spending 25% less on video games in 2025 versus 2024, while our older generations, us,
basically like millennials.
Older millennial.
Well, I don't know really how much gaming like Gen X goes into, but the assumption I'm making is that it would mainly be millennials.
Yeah, millennials drop under 5%, which
not that much.
But not much. But we primarily grew up in that era of gaming. We had the PlayStation 1, the Nintendo 64, grew up with the PS2, Xbox 360, PS3, and then so forth to right now. Which begs the question, why are the new generations spending less on video games?
Yeah, well, I found this like really interesting. So I was going through a Vice article actually, and there's a quote here saying that the rug's not being pulled out from under young people, it's being burned while they're still standing on it. And I think that it's like, that's kind of in reference to, I think, maybe a broader economy and like the rising cost of absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And, how much we need to pay for these days compared to, 10, 15, 20 years ago. But more specifically to gaming, what's interesting is that the trend is changing in regards to habits of gaming. So apparently when it comes to Gen Z, they're more wanting to go towards kind of like, I don't know how to call it, I guess like friends slop games, like basically like cheat co-op games like Lethal Company, or games that act as like a social hangout, kind of like poor timing, poor example, but Roblox, or like, you got your Fortnite.
Have a seat.
Yeah,
Have a seat. Have a seat.
Chris Hansen, no! But, you have all of these free-to-play games, so there are alternatives there. Arguably, I think that I don't have any problems with those games. I think those games are great, but they're...
Especially Roblox, right?
I feel like they're...
You said
shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
Shut the fuck up.
Have a seat.
Yeah. I don't like Duncan. I don't like Duncan this episode. He's a fucking...
You wanted him, you got him.
You can handle the truth. Anyway, so I just think that their habits are supposedly changing and may indicate that this is due to cost. What's interesting as well is that out of all of these discretionary spending for Gen Z, apparently gaming or game spending is the one area that they've actually cut back in the most compared to other purchases, like clothing, furniture, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it really seems to be less of a priority to keep up with these AAA titles and stuff like that. Like, I remember when you and I were like in high school, the latest Call of Duty came out. Even though we were in high school, didn't earn that much money, we would have been absolutely jonesing to buy a copy so that way we can play with our friends.
Yeah, 100%.
So no matter what, we would buy it. But the landscape is completely different, not just in gaming, but just everywhere. Again, like, everything is so expensive. There's a lot more uncertainty.
Cost of living prices.
Absolutely. And I also think that, I don't know, I am actually really curious as to what is going to happen down the track with gaming, because this almost in a way kind of poses a new problem. If there's less spending with this, I'm just going to keep saying Gen Z, they're the next generation of the future of gaming and the future consumers, which they will become the majority eventually of the people consuming all of these games that are being developed and made at the moment. But if they're buying less and spending less on games, then what's going to happen with the developers and publishers? But then on the other hand, you also have all of these development teams getting laid off from corporations like Microsoft, and it's like, a big reason is to make the share value
Profits up, boys.
look more appealing. But I
Money.
wonder if that's also a factor too. What will the gaming landscape look like in about 15, 20 years time when the majority of the target demographic or the audience is actually going to be Gen Z, but they're not really interested in buying? Or would it be a similar situation to, say, us, where, 10 years ago, we wouldn't have had anywhere near as much money as we supposedly would now for discretionary spending? So I don't know. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that, because it's complex. There's so many layers.
There's so many
like
layers.
An ogre.
It's an onion. It's an onion.
Like Mike Myers.
It's such a hard question to answer where the gaming industry will be in the next 15 years. Especially since the industry is the biggest industry of entertainment in the world. It's $1 billion industry. I don't think it's going to go anywhere or disappear. I think it's just going to adapt to the landscape of what it currently is now. And to be honest, that landscape, it is those free-to-play titles. It is that Fortnite. It is those battle passes. It is that subscription service,
like endless play
with PS Plus, especially where we're probably seeing a shift where Microsoft is moving to everything's an Xbox. And obviously rumors of that the new PlayStation there's going to be a handheld version of it. And you've got the Steam Deck and you've got the Switch. So you're probably going to see a lot more investment into cloud gaming, where anywhere in the world you can just get your portable device and play whatever you want to play. And unfortunately, I hate to say, we're probably going to see more live service fatigue. We're going to see more of those live service games, because that's where they thrive the most. I mean, look at Fortnite. That's the biggest live service game of this generation in consoles. Like, it's just massive how much it rakes in. I hope, I hope that indie developers are still around, because I will gladly give my money to an indie developer over a major publisher like Microsoft, because indie developers, there are some great indie games out there. Like Stardew Valley, as an example, is an amazing indie game. Hades, amazing indie game. Baldur's Gate 3.
And who knows, maybe what's the game that I've challenged us to play?
What was the title? Sorry.
I'm going to look back through my notes. Sword of the Sea. So the one from Giant Squid, or Journey or whatever. Like, I really want to
play that.
And that's a cheaper indie title. I definitely think that we could expect more $30 to $50 AA titles on the horizon over the next, say, 5-10 years as well.
I'll gladly pay that money.
Yeah, but it's interesting though, because I think that would be a really good outcome for everyone.
Yeah,
it's more affordable. These smaller studios will get more of a go, hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I guess we can only just see what happens. I mean, when I hear that, the 18 to 24-year-old consumer market,
the youth
of today, when I hear that they're spending less money, it makes total sense to me. Because even for us, I'm just like, holy shit, like, I don't have the money to fork out for the brand new Call of Duty game or whatever. And also,
Black Ops 7.
To add to this, actually, I just thought of something. It makes me wonder, because when's the last time you've bought a movie online? Like, when's the last time?
Like bought it like full price?
Yeah, like just bought it so you can watch it over and over again.
I
genuinely don't think I've ever bought a movie.
I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Can a physical media count in this situation?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
The last movie that I physically bought was in 2014, 2015, and that was the Blu-ray copy of Interstellar.
Dude, that's insane.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of.
That's insane, because, as a matter of fact, I also got the Blu-ray of a completely different movie, A Man of Steel, back in 2013.
Was that Schneider vs. Peeves?
No, but like, I guess the point of me saying that is with Netflix.
Yeah.
There's no need to buy movies anymore, or like, Disney Plus, all these streaming platforms. So I'm wondering if that's the same thing with Game Pass and like PS Plus and all that. It's like, cool, you've got a subscription here, you can access all of these games. Why the fuck would anyone need to buy God of War brand new because there's PS Plus? You've got all of these avenues to be able to access these games for cheaper. And, we've already talked about it on this show a couple of weeks ago, when the former head of Arcane Studios kind of, spoke out and talked about how it's an unsustainable model.
Yeah.
And I agree. But it's not just impacting, the studios or the developers who are trying to get their games on Game Pass, but it's also affecting the studios where it really informs and changes people's spending habits. I know it's certainly impacted mine.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I'm a lot less inclined to buy a brand new game now, especially if it's like a AAA title, unless it's on one of these platforms.
Yeah, no, I to be honest, I agree. Like, it's hard to justify.
It sucks.
It's
just how it is.
It sucks. It is how it is. Like, I really like the last game I bought was Death Stranding 2.
Yeah,
and
I know you've got like Ghosts of Yotei on the way or something.
I got Ghosts.
Like
I got Ghosts of Yotei coming along the way, and I guess you can count that.
Yeah, but the thing is, that's like a special edition thing.
Yeah,
you wouldn't buy just a standard edition of something. I don't think, unless like it was definitely nowhere to play.
Yeah, and I think the only example I can obviously think of is probably Grand Theft Auto 6.
But that's like a unicorn, man.
Yeah,
that's
true. That's like a unicorn.
Once a generation.
It's generational. That's a generational thing right there. That's the only thing. That, like when it comes to a Rockstar game, you're gonna buy it regardless. But you are right. That is a unicorn.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that, there's that triple threat of, young graduates or younger people, the demographic of like 18 to 24. They're struggling to find jobs. They've got student loan payments and credit card delinquency. Just to be able to, keep a roof over their head or to buy just essentials.
Think of the tariffs.
Apparently, well, it's just apparently it's the highest it's been since before the pandemic, and it's just we talk about this unintentionally. I think a lot on this show. It's almost like we just deviate back to this topic of just like, oh man, everything's so expensive, everything's fucked. What's gaming going to look like? And it might sound like really negative and doom and gloom. I don't think that the gaming industry is fucked. I just think it's going to look different.
It's changing.
And I think that what's interesting is that I think an unfortunate truth and a hard pill to swallow is the fact that, yes, games are going to get more expensive. They've kind of sat at that $60 price point for a very long time.
They have, yeah.
But now it's like the price is going to go up. It wouldn't surprise me if within 6 to 12 months of Microsoft saying, all right, well, we've been at 70 for a little bit. Let's go up to 80. What about 90? And then it just kind of keeps going. And I think that the trend will go away from AAA games and more towards the AA games and the indie games. But I'm really curious if there'll ever be a point where the Gen Z demographic, if their spending will increase, if there's going to be a trend shift, if things are going to get easier financially for everyone, who knows? But do you have any other thoughts before we close this section now?
No thoughts. It's just going to be interesting to see what the next 10 years hold for the game industry, just to see how it evolves, because the days of gaming where we grew up are truly gone. And, I think we're just seeing a shift, a pivot into this new evolution of what the industry is going into. You can obviously be angry about it, you can obviously disapprove, but it's just the way it is, unfortunately. And if you're not happy with it, if how it goes, if as a consumer, I always like to say, vote with your wallets. Your money is the biggest vote to these major publications. So if you want to see real change, definitely, vote for your wallets. And can't wait to see in 10 years what the new model or the new game industry looks like.
Hey, would you look at that? You've made it through the entirety of this episode. Congratulations. This video is just one section of our weekly gaming podcast called Last Week in Gaming Today. If you're interested in checking out the full episode or more discussions like the one you've just watched, I'll leave a link to the podcast in the description and comment section below.